Hello, and welcome to A Mistake in Progress. The other day, I got to thinking about an old website called Quizilla, which was an online website where mostly teenagers would go and upload their writings, their stories, their poetry, their whatever. It was a lot of fanfic, of course. It was a lot of original fiction that was heavily inspired, and that is what we are looking at today. This is a book called Jack Chimcholi, Book 1, New Recruit, which, actually, I might have got that wrong. Hang on. It might just be The Recruit. It's probably meant to be The Recruit. That's a whole thing. Okay, so what I want to tell you, first of all, this is technically, as of recording, the only story I have ever finished outside of short stories. This is the only, and it is novella in length. I looked up word counts and stuff, but it is a 100-page long story. It is a finished book, if you will, but it's not very good. I was 13 when I wrote this. As you can see, I've got an introduction here. I thought, I like to write introductions to things like this just in case, I ever croak it unexpectedly and people come across it and don't know what it is, that sort of thing. But basically, I went back through the Wayback Machine, I found the story, almost all of it, and I pasted it in, and I formatted it all, mostly. I think, anyway, we'll get to it. And we're going to have a look at it today, the first time I've reread this since I was probably 13. And, there are 3 books which we need to keep in mind as we read this, because I was heavily inspired by Darren Shan's Cirque de Freak series, which is a young adult series where a boy gets turned into a half vampire and is taken away from his family, etc. And then the other 2 are less influential, but they are still important. The Alex Rider series and the Cherub series, which are both kind of like teenage spy thriller series books. And yeah, this story is mostly kind of an amalgamation of taking heavy inspiration from that. And when I say heavy inspiration, let me tell you, as I was pasting this in, I did catch the odd word or two on my way by. And I swear, I did not set out to plagiarize, but it is damn near plagiarizing some of these stories. So I think it could be fun to go back and read it. But enough introduction, let's get on with the story. The problem, also I don't know how much we're going to get through here because it is a 100-page long story, so we won't be reading all of it today, but if people are interested, then we will continue reading in another video. But here are the chapters. Chapter 1, Chapter 15, and Chapter 30 are missing, but due to the way Quizilla was structured as a website, each chapter begins with a kind of author's note at the top, and a lot of the time I would write kind of a little recap. So I know I've done that for chapter 2, hopefully I've done that for chapter 16 and 31 as well. But without further ado, because there's already been a sordid amount of that, let us get on to the book. Chapter 1. I can tell you what happened in chapter 1, I vaguely remember it. A boy called Jack Chimcholi, this is incorrect, the boy is called Richard, we will get to it, who I guess was quite rich because I believe he lived in a mansion, he wanted to get on the computer, but his sister was on the computer, and he found this very frustrating, and he got into a big argument with his sister, who I believe was called Trish, and he pushed her out a window in his blind rage. She fell through the window to her death. That is chapter 1. This was probably based on the fact that sometimes I wished to go on a computer as a teenager and my sister was on it and I got frustrated, but I never pushed my sister out of a window. So this was kind of like a dramatization of events. I never wanted to push her out a window either, I should add. Chapter 2. Dad's home. Recap. So I've just killed my sister. I'm crying. I pushed her. It's my fault. And Dad's about to come home. I'm still crying and holding my dead sister. I'm a murderer. I killed my own sister. How will I be able to live with myself? I hear gravel crunching. Oh no. Oh God no. Dad's home. I'm in the worst trouble anyone in the whole of history has been. I've got to be. I look up. Dad steps out of a car. Gulp. Oh, it's Trixie. What? Why are you holding Trixie? Why are you crying? What's wrong? Dad screams those last 2 words at the top of his lungs. Later. In hospital. It was an open and closed verdict as far as the doctors were concerned. Snapped neck. I can't stop crying. I mean, it's not just that Trixie's dead. I flipping killed her! Finally, I'm able to stop crying. It's very tough. Extremely tough, I should say. I try not to think about what's happened. This is probably the lowest point of my life. Dad drives us both home. We live in a mansion. I should have said that earlier. I guess there wasn't time with the whole... No, don't. I'll cry again. I tuck myself under the covers. I'm crying again. I literally cry myself to sleep. The next morning. I wake up to nice sunshine. I smile and roll over. Then the memories come back. I groan. I look at the smashed window. I relive the moments again and again. No, stop it! I'm going to go to a mental home in this state. I eat breakfast with Dad. It's a fry-up, but it's burnt. Dad clears his throat when we finished. Well, would you care to tell me what happened last night? He asked. I've been dreading this moment, but I tell him. He just stares. I finish and he keeps on staring. Here it comes. He's going to yell his head off. It was an accident, I cry. I didn't mean to do it. I'm literally begging him not to hate me. He just keeps on staring. Slowly, he pushes his empty plate aside and walks upstairs. 1 hour later. I'm in my room just staring at the broken window. I see something. I look around. Dad's in the doorway. I can tell he's been crying lots, but then something that I never expected happens. It wasn't your fault, son. You just got driven over the edge. We'll take you to see some anger management classes. I'm not being mean. I just don't want another incident like this happening. I love you, son. Please don't beat yourself up over this. It wasn't your fault. He leaves. Then the doorbell rings. I answer it. It's the police. Dun dun dun! Alright, there's chapter 1. Oh, chapter 2, sorry. To be fair, it kind of functions better as a chapter 1, right? One of the things you learn as a writer is you should start the story off with an interesting hook, and sometimes it's better to start the story a little later than you originally intended. But yeah, I didn't really mention, but one of the reasons I'm doing this is because, not just because it's good to poke fun at it and have a laugh, but also because it's personally interesting to me to go back and see what my writing was like back in the day, and to kind of like evaluate what my early ideas were like, identify how they could be improved. For instance, maybe I could introduce the apostrophe, and yeah, it's just kind of fun, that's all. And it's clearly I am very overtly trying to get across how people are feeling. Lots of crying, lots of shouting, lots of melodrama. But yeah, obviously lots of spelling, grammar, punctuation mistakes. Basic things. I clearly didn't go back and spell check this or anything before I carried on. But, I have more to say, but we'll just carry on for now because I want to get through some of this. Chapter 3, Law and Order. So I've just killed my sister, got back from the hospital of which she was pronounced dead, told my father about everything that happened, and the police have just rang the bell to my house. Not exactly a perfect life, eh? Richard? That's the officer. Yeah? That's me. Can you tell me everything that happened on the night of Trixie's mishap? He asks me, pretending he's my friend when I know all he wants to do is bang me up in jail, get this case over and done with just so he can get some cherry donuts. Okay, I might be overreacting here, but everything's been going against me lately and I can just feel that all the police want to do is make things worse. But I tell them everything. Richard, he said after a short silence, I know it was an accident, I really do, but I'm afraid that you are going to have to go to court. I know you'll be innocent, but we have to follow the law. I nod miserably. I knew it. I'm going to jail. He must have read my mind because he laid a hand on my shoulder and smiled reassuringly. You're going to be okay. The two officers, one hadn't said a word and was just observing me silently, got up and let themselves out. What was that about? It's Dad. I take a deep breath. They're taking me to court. But that's preposterous! I know. Why didn't you tell them, then? They're the law, Dad. I shut my eyes and rubbed my eyelids. If I told them to go away, I'd probably be being held at gunpoint right now. A few days later, in court. We find a defendant... Long silence. I think they're just trying to scare me. Guilty. What? Oh my god. I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. How can they do this to me? It was an accident. I told them that. Two men pick me up and drag me away. I hear my dad screaming that they've got it all wrong in the distance. They give me an injection so I don't know where I'm going, most likely. My world goes black. Later, I know where I am. I've never been here before, but I can tell just by the way this building's made. It is the Young Offenders Institute. Richard? Says a voice behind me. I look around and see a bald man who must be in his mid-30s dressed in an all-white suit and a big friendly smile. A big wide friendly smile. People seem to smile a lot around me. My name's Charlie Roper. You've been asleep for hours. It's about time you woke up. He smiles. Right then, the first thing we need to do is... I don't hear any more, because right then a hand darts out from the ceiling, grabs Charlie Roper's neck and twists. Charlie Roper's dead. Right. Let's explain a few things. Right. You may have noticed this book is called Jack Chimcholi Book 1, and our protagonist is called Richard. This is intentional obfuscation of, I guess, what's going to end up happening. You're like, what? Why is the protagonist called Richard? It's explained later. Don't worry about it. It's very twisty-turny. I'm a good writer. But yeah, there's a lot wrong with this chapter. So, I clearly didn't understand how the legal system works. I had never heard of manslaughter, I guess. And obviously a police officer probably wouldn't talk like this. And, you know, is just like smiling and saying, I'm going to be okay. Also, he gets taken directly to court, which is quite funny. And then they inject him so that he doesn't know where he gets taken, which I don't believe that's a thing that happens, but okay. And then something I noticed while I was pasting this in, this bald man, he is called Charlie Roper. If that name strikes a chord with any of you, if you find that to be a familiar name, it is because it is the name of an antagonist, a minor antagonist, in, I believe, the 4th book of the Alex Rider series. Now, here's something that genuinely happens with writing. To this day, I have to be careful of it. You need a name for a character. You pluck one out of your subconscious thinking you've made it up, and then you find out it's actually in your subconscious for a reason, because it was already the name of a character from something else, or a celebrity that you don't know much about, that kind of thing. So I think I had probably been reading Eagle Strike, the 4th novel of the Alex Rider series, and the name Charlie Roper was in the back of my mind, but allowing it to get published, you know, probably a good idea to run checks on all the names you think you've come up with before you publish anything. Also, before we continue onwards, I wanted to mention the whole, like, oh, if I hadn't, you know, told them the truth, I'd probably have a gun held to my head right now thing. That's funny for a few reasons. Firstly, because, well, I mean, you know, probably not true. Also, the kid has all the, you know, power in this scene. The dad isn't imparting any advice or anything like that. The dad's being like, why didn't you do this? And the kid's like, you know, because otherwise this. But anyway, chapter 4, The Man and the Red Ferrari. Okay, my life is really starting to suck. I've been taken to court, found guilty of murder, but seriously, what was that about? Taken to a young Taken to a young offenders institution. Talked to a man called Charlie Roper who's just been killed by a hand darting out of an air vent. I'm hoping to wake up any time now. I really am. So there I am, gawping at the late Charlie Roper like some sort of penguin. When a man jumps down from the air vent, I start backing away. I'm scared, really scared. I'm about to be killed, but then something happens that surprises me. He holds out a hand. Come with me, kid. I stand there, wavering uncertainly. Come on. If you don't come with me, you're going to be the one who murdered the man in the law's eyes. Let's go. What the heck? If I stay here, he's going to kill me anyway. I might as well go with him. I take his hand, and he jumps back up to the air vent, carrying me with him. The roof was quite high up, so I was pretty impressed. How did you do that? I ask. Never mind, he grunts. We keep running, well, crawling, until we get outside. Hop on my back, the man says. What? Why? I ask. Won't you run slower? A bit, he says, but we'll outrun them. We'll still outrun them. A bit mysterified, I hop on his back. The next thing I know, we're running at the speed of a fast train. Later. He's starting to slow. He stops at a red Ferrari. How did you do that? I ask, panting for breath, not from exhaustion, but from amazement. Never mind, he grunts again. He presses a button on a set of keys and the Ferrari opens. Wait, who are you? Where are you taking me? I ask. This is taking the word mysterious to whole new heights. Later, he grunts. He seems to do a lot of grunting. 2 hours later. Finally, the red Ferrari stops at an old abandoned warehouse. He drove like a maniac. Why didn't you run? I thought you could run faster, I question him. He just grins at me. The Ferrari is more fun. Okay, chapter 4. So we've got the introduction of a mysterious man who can do lots of strange and crazy things. You might have guessed, but this man is about to be revealed to be a vampire. The reason I'm telling you this now is because he flits. The running at the speed of a train, being able to run super fast with someone on your back is ripped straight out of a Cirque du Freak series. I'm sorry, Darren Shan. I thought I was being original, I think. But yeah, I just decided that's a thing that all vampires in all fiction can probably do. So, Chapter 5, Questions and Answers. I remember this, before we even get into this, I remember being disappointed with this chapter because it is an info dump, and I didn't quite understand how to not make it be an info dump, but we'll see how it goes. A mysterious man has just abducted me from a young offenders institute, which I was sent to in wrong judgment, and travelled at the speed of a fast train. Then we hop in a red Ferrari and go whizzing off into the night. We stop at an old abandoned warehouse. It's time for some answers. Author's note. It took me ages to come up with a good name for the mysterious man. I think I got it good. I disagree. Let's get off it. Also, that's the first author's note. These intros, I think, become a lot more author's notey and a lot less kind of like previously on. So that's a shame, but we'll see. We enter to old abandoned warehouse, and my head fills up with questions. Drag up a seat, the man says. I do as he asks. There are seats stacked up against the walls and a table with a seat that the man's sitting in the middle of a room. Hit me with your questions that you are so eager to ask, but I assure you, you will soon wish you didn't ask. He smiles regretfully. I ignore that warning. Who are you? I ask. My name is Vladimir Horston, but I prefer people to call me Nim. Vladimir Horston? Really? It sounds like some sort of a vampire name, I say jokingly. Vladimir. No, that's going to take me too long to say, haha. How about I use his more comfortable name? Nim shifted uncomfortably in his chair and coughed. I guess he didn't like me making fun of his name. Sorry, I apologize. Well, why did you bust me out of young offenders? And how did you do all that stuff you did? How I did it, I will come to later. But I busted you out because I was there in a courtroom. I heard how unfairly you were arrested. I was in fact one of a jury who voted for you not to go to jail. He smiled. That's strange. While I was nervous, I kept looking at the jury, but I didn't see him there. I study him. Spiked up black hair, green eyes, a scar running from the right corner of his left eye running down the side of his nose, white teeth, and a muscular body. I didn't see him in the jury. I was probably just too wound up to notice him at the time. After all, why shouldn't I trust him? He did save my skin. For the first time, I realize it's night. A shiver runs down my spine, but I'm not sure why. Why did you take me so far away from where I live? I quiz him, a bit worried now. Well, the police would be looking for you. He looked at me as though I'd just admitted I didn't know the world was round. But we can go back there soon. I said. I was wondering how long soon would be. I've got a deal to put to you, he said suddenly, but you have to wait for me to finish explaining. Promise you won't try to run. Okay. I'm quite worried. First of all, you know what you said about my name sounding like a vampire's? I know you were joking, but funny story. What? Alright. I don't think this was exactly the chapter I was thinking of, because it's not that bad. It's an important chapter for information. It doesn't quite feel like an info dump. I think it's the next chapter that probably does. But a few things that stood out to me. Okay, so Vladimir Horston might put you in mind of the name Ver Horston from the Cirque du Freak series. I guess I thought Vladimir was far enough away from Ver and I could just use the name Horston. The name Nim comes from a World of Warcraft music video maker of the time called Nim. Yes, that Nim, if you know of him. That is why he's called Nim, just because I liked the name Nim a lot. It's not very vampiric, but whatever. I like how I only just realized it was night. That's me trying to foreshadow the vampire thing, but it's like, you only just realized it was night? Okay. And yeah, I like how he's like, oh, I have no reason not to trust him. You just saw him kill a man in front of you. You have plenty of reason not to trust this man who just killed a man in front of you, is clearly lying about not being on the jury, and has abducted you from your cell. Anyway, carrying on. Chapter 6. The Truth About Vampires. Sorry for the delay, I made it, but Quizilla mucked it up. That's an author's note. And I know you won't believe me about being a vampire, he mumbled when I saw the look on his face. Why should I quiz him. Vampires aren't real. By the way, we keep swapping between past tense and present tense, I know. Oh no? Then how did I run at such high speed? How did I jump so high? How did I... He paused and smiled. I felt a huge force hit me and I go flying through the air. Do that, he smiles. I blinked from shock. Slowly I pull myself up and brush dirt off my clothes. Okay. Listen, Nim, I said angrily. I don't know what you want from me, but I can promise you this. If you don't take me home this instant, you're going to wish you were never born. I don't care if you're a vampire. All I want to do is go home, meet back with my family and friends, and lead a perfectly normal life. Or, so help me, I'll drive a barbed-tip stake through your heart, chop off your head, and fill it with garlic. As soon as I said that, I regretted it. I'd forgotten how powerful he was. He made me go flying across the room without even laying a finger on me. But luckily for me, he merely chuckled. That's what I like about you, Richard. You think you don't have guts in you, but you do. It comes out when you least expect it. The rage, the anger, is what led you to this chain of events in the first place, is it not? Shut up, I didn't mean to hurt her, I shout furiously. He lets out a little fake gasp. There it is. The anger and rage I was talking about. He grows serious, but I didn't come here to be talking to like that. If you speak to me like that again, you'll be punished, understand? I shakily nod my head. How old are you anyway, and what's your middle name, I ask, suddenly growing curious about vampires. Nim cocks an eyebrow at me. I'm 128 years old, and I have 2 middle names. One is Nim, which I like and ask people to call me by. My other is Vladimir Nim Verhorsten. Interesting name. What can vampires do, I ask. Nim looks a little overwhelmed by the question. That's a lot to ask. Very well. I cannot tell you everything, but I will tell you some basic underlying facts. He takes a deep breath. We can't fly or shapeshift. We don't burn in sunlight, but we prefer night and are usually nocturnal. We don't live forever, only for about 400 years. A state to the heart will kill us, but so will guns, explosive, long falls, some infections and diseases. We can run at the speed of light, but it's very hard not to smash into things. If you do, you're as good as dead. That's why I don't travel that fast. We can be seen on film, but we look like grey blobs. Our hearts do beat, and we are living. We don't grow fangs, but our teeth and nails are extra hard. Some of us kill for blood, but I'm good, so I take blood from blood banks and criminals. We can't live on blood alone. We have to eat too. That's all I'm telling you at the minute. He looks exasperated. It will be years before you learn everything. There's something about what he said that disturbs me a lot. What do you mean, years before I learn everything? Are you planning to turn me into a vampire? He sighs. Time for that deal talk. Okay. This is the most plagiarism-filled chapter so far. I mean, we've already got Verhorsten that I said earlier. I thought I might have gotten away with it by going for Vladimir, which is a real name, sure. But I still included also the whole having 2 middle names thing. I have 2 middle names, and I clearly thought it was very unique and interesting, so I included that here. In my defense, it is worth noting that this was before the Larton Crepsley prequel series came out, and it was revealed that Verhorsten was a real character who existed in Larton's past. Verhorsten, at the point of which I was writing this, was more of a kind of like an Easter egg or a, cute little reference to the assumed name of a character in the main series that I didn't think would be brought up again. I don't know how to spell dirt. All right. I did. I just didn't care, I don't think. Now this is the info dump I was telling you about. But also, this is basically like chapter 3 of the second book of Cirque du Freak. Like, it has some different ideas. Like, they don't burn in sunlight. They do in Cirque du Freak. They can't run at the speed of light in Cirque du Freak. But a lot of this stuff, like the teeth and nails being extra hard, we can't live on blood alone, that stuff is all just ripped straight out of Cirque du Freak. Clearly I decided they only live for about 400 years instead of like the 800, 900 that they do in that series. Also, I like the idea that it's okay if you're taking blood from criminals. Not sure I agree with that. Anyway, chapter 7, The Deal. Vladimir Nim Verhorsten wants to turn me into a vampire for what exactly? Tune in and find out. Author. Sorry I'm not adding chapter very often. Okay. A long, uncomfortable silence surrounds us. I break it. So what's the deal? I'm trembling all over, and not because I'm cold. You better prepare yourself. It may be a little overwhelming, he warns me. Will you cut the crap and get on with it, I snap. I'm getting worried. Very well. Nim clears his throat. First of all, I want to tell you what will happen if I say yes and I blood you. Blooding you is a phrase in Cirque du Freak. I need to make a long cut down your left arm, then I need to put my mouth to it and blow into your cut. I will infect you with the vampire spirit. You may feel juddery for a few minutes afterwards, but that's natural. It would take a few years for your powers to fully develop. The usual time is 10 to 15 years. A lot by your standards, but to vampires, it's like a couple of months. I sway a little on my feet, trying to take all this in at once. Then you will have to change your name and look. After all, the police will be looking for you. Even though you haven't even heard the deal yet, it's good to start thinking of a new name now. And for the love of God, please make it creative. Think of a vampire-like name. If you choose your names, then why did you choose one you hate? I quiz him. He grimaces. My master was strict. He chose my name for me when I couldn't make up my mind. I at least got to choose one middle name. However, I will not be so strict with you. Bringing us on to the subject of masters, I will be your master until you fully learn the ways of vampires. Okay, it's hard to believe that just 48 hours ago I was leading a normal life. It felt like centuries ago. Now for the deal, he says bluntly. I gulp. Nim eyes me but continues. I know you are seriously regretful for the death of your sister. My eyes practically pop out of my sockets, and people always say that you can never bring a dead person back to life, but I'm a vampire, and I've got a potion which can do just that. Finally, he concludes, Richard, the deal is this. If you become a vampire, I will bring your sister back to life. Silence. Alright, there's a lot to unpack here. Again, huge Cirque du Freak influence, if we're going to be generous enough to call it influence. This is very similar to a scene that happens, right down to the whole deal thing of like, become a vampire and I will save someone you care about. So there's that. I wanted clearly to differentiate myself from Cirque du Freak, where you get blooded by transfusing blood whilst, holding cut fingertips next to each other kind of thing. But I clearly didn't consider how weird it would be. Okay, so first of all, it's a cut down the arm. I'm sure that comes up later as like, oh, you can tell a vampire by the scar in their arm. But anyway, I need to put my mouth to it and blow into your cut. I will infect you with the vampire spirit. Might be the funniest fucking thing I've ever read. Jesus Christ. Anyway, carrying on to chapter 8, The Decision. So I've just been offered to become a vampire in exchange for my sister being able to live again. Things are about to kick off. Big time. I'm sorry, what? I ask in case I've heard wrong. It is your humanity or her life, he replies, not quite so subtle this time. So you want me to hand over my humanity to you, let you change me into a vampire, so that my sister will be able to live again knowing that she had been killed by her brother? Yes. What sort of a deal is that? I explode. Yes, I miss Trixie, but it's wrong just to bring someone back to life. And if they're giving up my humanity... Ugh! Wait, he stammers. Think about it. If you go home, the police will find you and arrest you. You will be given a life sentence. You will have to live with yourself in jail knowing that you've killed your sister, had the chance to save her, and thrown that away too. How will you be able to live with yourself? Within a year, you'll be a screaming wreck. Do you want that to happen to you? I just stand there gaping. As much as I hate to say it, Nim's right. But giving up my humanity and becoming a vampire, it's ridiculous. Why would you put this deal to me in the first place? Why couldn't you let her live and let me live as a normal human being? I ask. Nim looks sorrowful. Because I can't. Why not? I just can't. I wish I could, but it's not our way. You either join me, or you don't. I need a while to think about this, I say, and try to trot off. But before I can go, Nim clears his throat to attract my attention. There's something else I should tell you about too. I'm not sure whether it will help or hinder your ability to make your mind up, but you need to know. Know what? Jeez, vampires are so bloody secretive. The potion won't just make your sister live again. It will turn her into a vampire too. Author. Oh god. Now this would be the perfect time for a chapter to end, but I've had enough time wasted typing up conversations for the bloody warehouse vampire talk, so I'll just get on with it. I stand there stunned. I would be her master too. You would be able to stay with your sister. Think of it as a good thing, Nim threw out desperately. I smiled as I thought about it. I smiled some more. Would she also have to change her name and looks, I ask? Yes, the vampire says bluntly. Good. We both bloody hate the name Trixie. He can tell by the way I grinned that I'd made my mind up. So is it a deal? It was a hard decision. Every moral fibre in my body screamed no, but everything else said yes. Damnation. I stretched out and shook his hand. Vladimir Nim Verhorsten, I do believe we have a deal. Well, blimey. An author's note in the middle of a chapter. Who do I think I am? Stephen King? So, we do wonder about the motives of Nim trying to blood me as a vampire with emotional blackmail. I say me. I don't know why I'm saying me. Jack or Richard or whatever the fuck he's called. But he won't say. He just says it's his way. He wishes he can't just bring Trixie back to life and leave, but it's not his way. Okay, bro, sure, that's fine. Also, Jack or Richard or whatever we're calling him doesn't want Trixie to come back to life because then she will know that he killed her. He would rather she stays dead so that she doesn't know that he killed her. Okay, bro. Right, cool. Chapter 9, The Recruit. It's the name of the book! It's the title of the book! Recap. If I become a vampire, then my sister Trixie gets to live again. But then she has to be a vampire too, and we both have to change our names and looks. Since I'll be able to stick with Trixie, I said deal. Whew. I told you things were about to kick off. Here we go. Give me your arm, Nim says impatiently. What? You want me to cut it off just so you can keep it? I grin. I know this isn't the time or place for jokes, but I've always wanted to use that one, and I couldn't resist. Don't play games with me, Richard, he says through gritted teeth. This is a moment you will look back upon later in life, hopefully not with regret. I sigh from his lack of humour and stretch out my arm. Brace yourself, this will hurt, Nim warns me. He seems to warn me something every chapter, doesn't he? Oops, I just stretched out of my own reality there. Before I can properly think of how I just bent the laws of my universe, Nim uses his extra sharp nail to cut a long scratch down my left arm. Ouch. Ow, I yelp. Why can't you just do a tiny cut? Nim sighs. I better say this quick or you will bleed to death. I raise my eyebrows. I'm in a silly mood, at a serious time. I made it that length, blah blah blah, for 2 reasons. One is tradition. It's how you recognize a vampire. All the way down your left arm, always the same length, always the same depth. The other reason is because if I made a small cut, it would take longer for the vampire venom to flow through your body. Here we go. To my surprise, he dribbles over my cut. Seriously, I thought he was going to cut his arm and we'd share blood or something like that. Nice reference. But dribbling over my arm? That surprises me. Ew, ow, I yelp as his drool sizzles with my blood. I told you it would hurt, Nim says matter-of-factly. Brace yourself. He shouts suddenly when a dribble oozes its way through my arm. I suddenly start convulsing. Within seconds, I'm on the floor writhing. My whole body feels freezing and boiling at the same time. I'm dizzy. I'm in a fit-like state. I puke everywhere. I'm terrified. Something's gone wrong. I'm going to die. But then it stops as suddenly as it started. I recover and stand up. Give me your arm, Nim says, like he did earlier. You'll bleed to death. I groggily raise my arm. Nim runs his finger along the length of the cut, and it suddenly becomes an all-too-noticeable scar. Whoa, I grin shakily. Will I be able to do that? In time, Nim says, but we will talk about your powers in more detail later. Now we have to find your sister. Thanks for reading. Next chapter's coming soon. Sorry if I got some facts wrong. I forgot to read the last chapter by the time I got around to typing this. Let's just say the facts in here are true, okay? Please rate for feedback, comment if you like, and mail me. I love to talk. Okay, so I did not have him blow the vampire spirit into him. You might be confused about why he's drooling on the boy. That's clearly how he's infecting him with the vampire taint or whatever. In the Cirque du Freak series, spit can heal wounds, so that's kind of where that comes from. I'm taking that element and remixing it, I guess, because then he can just like heal by running a finger along his cut, which is marginally different, so I won't get sued when I inevitably sell this novel and make millions. Okay. The tone is all over the goddamn place. Jack is cracking wise, so there's that. Next up, chapter 10, the birth of Jack Chimcholi. So I'm now a vampire. Whoa. We're off to find my sister's corpse to make her come back to life and be a vampire like Master Nim and I. Master Nim. Trying to remember where we parked, Nim says, partly to himself as we walk past the red Ferrari. Dawn's approaching, and it looks like it will be a beautiful, sunny day. Some people are up and walking around already, and the morning traffic is already in place. I didn't know Nim and I were talking for so long. I'm tired. I haven't had any sleep since the Young Offenders Institute. Are you on loudly? Nim takes one look at me and sighs. Looks like we're going to have to take the Ferrari so you can have some rest, he says, a twinkle in his eye. Okay, but do me a favour, I ask him. What? He's expecting something huge. Please don't drive like a maniac. He laughs. While you're resting in the car, try and think of a good name. Remember, vampire-like. It starts to hit me while Nim's driving, sensibly, by my orders. I'm a different species now. Shit. Even though I've been turned into a vampire, I actually don't feel too much different. I felt a bit juddery, but Nim said that would happen. But so far I have no super strength, no supervision, hearing, smell. I think my eyesight might be a bit better, but that's probably because I've been in the dark for such a long time. No extra sharp nails, no fangs. Wait, Nim said we don't get them. But I'm starting to wonder whether the blooding actually worked. Maybe something's wrong with me, so the vampirism doesn't work, and it could lead my to death. Hold on. Wait up there, hypochondriac. Remember what Nim said? Uh-huh. Nim said our power's grown us slowly. How long did he say? 10 to 15 years. Oh, great. Now I'm holding conversations with myself in my head. I wake up as the car slows to a stop. I look up. It's about midday, and as sunny as I'd predicted. I was in quite a happy mood until I remember. Crap. I forgot to think of a name. I quickly thought, last names. I made a last name in English for someone. What was it? Chimcholi! The first name I could come up with? Jack. I always loved that name. Jack Chimcholi. It had an odd ring to it. We got out of the car and Nim looked at me. Chosen your name yet then? He asks. Yes. Well, what is it? I hesitate. I'll be calling myself this for the rest of my life. Jack. Jack Chimcholi. I told you to make it vampire-like, not monkey-like, Nim grumbles for the 1000th time. Are you sure I can't take it back? I ask yet again. I'm sure. You have chosen a name and must stick by it. It is not our way to change names. So what sort of look are you going for? I'd thought about this. At the moment, I have black short hair, no sort of style whatsoever, green eyes, and a skinny body. Remember now, I can change you any way I like. It will just take a bit longer. I grin up at him. Any way I like, eh? Fine. I want long blonde hair, blue eyes, muscular body. Nim smiles. Thank God you're simple. Lots of masters have to do all facelifts, nose directions, and some things that aren't nice to talk about. I grimace. The muscles you will have to earn yourself in a gym, but a vampire can get them quickly throughout his superior strength. I'm still glad you didn't choose facelifting, though. You would not look right. He trails off. Well, talking of facelifts, nose changing, and things you don't like to mention, I grin as his face drops 1,000 miles. Only joking. Look out, world. Jack Chimcholi has just been born. Yay, chapter 10. Chapters fly by so quickly. See? The story isn't so dark now. Keep on reading. There will be more. Crazy. Updated. I corrected tense mistakes and made Nim sound less kid-like towards the end. Oh, we have a patch for this chapter. Alright, lots to talk about again. So, the name Jack Chimcholi. I said I made a last name in English for someone. What was it? Chimcholi is a name of, I believe, I might be wrong, it's a very old memory, but I think it's the name of an African village we studied in primary school. I remembered I have the power to check, and it is actually a town in India. I don't believe I knew this when I was writing this. I think it was just lodged in my subconsciousness, because this was years later. But this does make me think that I had some notion of where I was pulling that name from. I don't know. Also, the whole, like, you have to stick to the name you've chosen thing is weird. But I've also just remembered that the whole changing your name in the first place, it makes sense in terms of a story, right? This story that makes so much sense already because you have to change your identity. But also, I think I was pulling it from the Skullduggery Pleasant books where you had to have like a name and there was a whole thing about the magical power of names and that kind of thing. I do want to read those books. I only ever read the first one, but it was pretty cool. Anyway, the whole idea of like having the power to change your appearance is very weird. I think I liked video games a lot. I still do. And I was probably thinking of like the Makeover Mage in RuneScape, or, something like that. And that's probably where the idea of wouldn't it be cool if you could magically change your appearance came from. Chapter 11, Resurrection. So I am now called Jack Chimcholi. Nim isn't pleased, but apparently I can't take it back. So we're about to go and hunt my sister's grave. I think that maybe is supposed to say haunt. I don't know. As we're walking through the long grass, I start thinking about Dad, my friends, my family. I'll never see any of them again. A lone tear rolls down my cheek. I turn away so Nim doesn't notice it, but without even looking around, Nim seems to have seen it. I know leaving home is hard, he says apologetically, but I think this way, at least you'll have your sister. I start to get pissed off with myself. All I've been doing is thinking about myself. I haven't thought about the bigger picture. While I'm off larking around and being silly, somewhere my dad's crying, my friends are probably sad. I've temporarily devastated the lives of the people closest to me. Tears start coming faster, not just of sadness, but of anger. Anger at myself. If I was in prison, I would at least have been able to see my family and friends for visits, maybe talk my way out of prison. But look on the bright side, at least. Oh my God. I'm going to have to drink human blood. Nim taps me on the shoulder. I look up through wet eyes and realise we're at the graveyard. Wait, why didn't we just drive up to here in the first place? I ask the vampire. He smiles. I thought fresh air and walking a bit might do you good. It is a nice day today. Then I hear him murmur, stupid Ferrari guzzles petrol so much, must remember to fill up that tank. I look up at him puzzled. Why didn't you say something in the first place? Nim gives me a look. Well, if you want me to ask you the smallest of things, I will. Then he added in another murmur, great, now I'm being bossed around by my student. I'm very puzzled. I take a proper look at the graveyard. It is huge. How are we going to find my sister in here? I ask Nim. Wait. Stop, I tell him. I have a strange sensation. Follow me. He obeys me, and within minutes we're at my sister's headstone. I didn't know a vampire's eyesight changed that quickly, Nim said incredulously. It hasn't. I just had a feeling. Strange boy, he says under his breath without moving his lips. Wait, what? Well, are you sure you don't want to go rest somewhere else for a minute? The sight of your sister's corpse may disturb you, he mumbles. Just dig. Clang! I hear Nim swear. He's obviously hurt his hand when hissing the spade on the coffin. I look at my watch. Digging up a whole grave in 2 minutes? I'm impressed, I say, rather sarcastically. Shut up, he says. Don't speak to me like that, I snap at him. He looks puzzled. I didn't say anything. And you better change your attitude. Remember, you're the student, and I'm the master. We don't have to be friends, you know. You're stuck with me for at least 10 years. So I think I'd choose the friend option, or it's going to be a long 10 years. I shrug. Anyway, let's get on with this. He lifts the coffin without warning, and I'm suddenly staring down to a pale, sleeping sister. My breath catches in my throat. I go into a sort of trance. I've done this to her. I nearly fall down the grave, and would have if Nim hadn't snapped at me. Come on, we've got to hurry up. If anyone sees us doing this, we'll have one hell of a time trying to explain. I gulp, recover my cool, and nod. Luckily, her body is in perfect shape. The potion will make the broken bones heal automatically. It will be painful for a few seconds, and she will be in a dazed state of mind when she wakes, but she will be okay. He makes a long cut down her left arm like he did with me, only this time he pours the potion onto her cut instead of dribbling. Her eyes shoot open. She sits forward quickly like you see people do in films after they've had bad dreams. They focus on me and Nim, then they roll back into their sockets and she falls back into her coffin. What's wrong? I cry, worried something's gone wrong. Okay. Nim just smiles. It's okay. She's just gone into unconsciousness. She'll wake in a few hours. We better get out of here. He picks my now living sister up in 2 arms and jumps out of a hole. He grabs the spade and covers over the grave quicker than when he dug. He grabs Trixie again, grabs my arm, and we run back to the Ferrari in what seems like one stride. We then lay Trixie in the car, and Nim pushes the Ferrari to the petrol station down the road, explaining to me that it was out of petrol to me as if he hadn't told me before. I've just got my sister back. Hope y'all like it. Sorry it's been so long. Life's been very busy lately. Count yourself lucky. My favourite stories barely ever get chapters added to them. Alright. Okay. I think that's where we're going to leave it for today, but very quickly, some things I've got to say about this chapter. Again, it's lifting a lot from Cirque du Freak. The whole digging up a grave scene, that's, you know, it's not exactly the same as Cirque du Freak, but, you know, it is a thing. I did have it happen in the middle of a day, so the prospect of nobody seeing that is a little interesting, but that's fine. Also, not very thematically appropriate, but it's fine. Also, a vampire just enjoying the nice day. Not very thematically appropriate, but that's fine. Yeah, it's you probably have a sense now as to, like, the many issues with this, but I was 13 years old, and of course everyone's 13-year-old fiction probably is a little bit like this. I should also mention, like, I don't regret writing this. I don't regret that this exists. This had to exist for me to be able to write whatever I'm able to write nowadays. You have to write stuff that's not good before you can write stuff that's good. And so while it's, you know, I'm happy to poke fun and laugh at this, I'm also not pleased with it, but pleased that I did it. But again, anything about this story which is in any way good is most likely only good because it's been lifted from Cirque du Freak. Please keep that in mind. But I hope you enjoyed this dip into my teenage fiction. If you would like me to continue this, let me know, and I will do so happily. And yeah, Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you in whatever I make next.